Hello, welcome to New You. This is Sister Kathy. Thank you for joining me tonight. Tonight, this is still a part of the Angry Men series, and I just titled it that kind of after the little game that we play on our phone, Angry Birds. Really didn't have any real intention by it. But anyway, on last week, we were talking about the role of man. And one of the things we were talking about as we ended the discussion is how important it is to be consistent and understanding, knowing what the word itself, role, means and how it reflects or how I would like for you to think of it in terms of being a man. So, your role we said we thought about it more in terms of just being consistent. I made reference to the fact of thinking of like being a quarterback. So if the quarterback has the job of keeping that ball safe and passing it on to the guy so he can like make a touchdown or whatever, score points or whatever. And that's his job. So it's important that when you have a role, that you maintain that role and that you be consistent. Like I said last week, you don't want the quarterback to show up at the game and he's playing the part of a linebacker. That's confusing. So if you're a man, then you need to function in whatever role you are in, whether that be um, a father, a husband, a provider, a community leader, like whatever role you fulfill, just be consistent in maintaining that role. So I got to hit on this again because I really um, like like the thought behind it. If you watch my first video, I believe I talked a little bit about the fight or flight aspect of being a man and how it seems to be that a lot of men are choosing the flight instead of the fight. In other words, instead of fighting for the things that hold value in your life, instead of fighting for your role as men, a lot of men are choosing to to the flight, to get out of it instead of being strong enough to maintain that role. So tonight we're going to further the discussion as we talked about fulfilling your role as a husband, as a father, or whatever the case may be. We talked about fulfilling that role and maintaining that role. So now we want to talk about the role of being a husband. Now, the role of being the husband is pretty much the same as the role as being a father. This kind of intertwined, of course, because that just makes natural sense. So, being a provider, being a husband, like I said, it's kind of in the same boat. But then, separate from that, I want to really stress the importance of the role of being a father, which of course um, comes along with having a family, which you're somebody's husband. You guys procreate, you make children. But I don't think I'm gonna get too much into the father tonight. Um, but I will address it maybe next week. I don't know if I have time this session. By the way, for all who are joining me, thank you. This is Sister Kathy, New You, streaming live. So, but what I do want to talk about tonight is the role of a husband, because a lot of men are not. I don't want to say they're not taking the role seriously. I think I just want to say that they don't know um, that some of them are not doing such a great job at it, and I think it's simply because they just don't know how. I mean, because think about it. People tend to not stay married anymore, so we don't really have those very strong role models that people had in the past. Very few people get married and stay married. So more than likely, a lot of men grew up in homes that are single parent homes, so they didn't really have that role model there to show them or demonstrate to them what being a man was. I remember, well, I remember I've heard stories And I remember a time when a man really took pride in being a husband. I mean, he really took pride in working hard, buying a home, and securing a future for his children and taking care of his wife. I'm 40 years old, so back in the day, people used to have housewives, believe it or not. And I know a lot of women fought for independence and all that good stuff. But still, I'm just talking about the sense of pride and dedication that men used to have. And it seems like now that is man's biggest struggle is understanding that role as a husband and then perceiving it as an honor, because just having taken pride in that role. I think a lot of men are intimidated when it comes to being a husband. I think a lot of them don't know really how to fulfill that role. And so I think it brings about a lot of intimidation. So, but at the end of the day, it's kind of like being a mom. You don't get to make an excuse for not fulfilling your role or taking on the leadership or the responsibility that you now have. You can't put a baby back. Uh, you can't become well, you can terminate a pregnancy, but I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying in the general sense of being pregnant, you can't revert that situation. So you have to take control and you have to start fulfilling your role as a mom. So it's the same thing with being a husband. You can't make excuses. You have to just learn how to navigate um, and grow in that role. It may be a challenge, but it's your responsibility, man. And I'm looking forward to men just taking on that role again, being great role models and inspiration to the younger men who are coming up. Because if you guys don't start taking your role seriously, if you don't bring honor and pride back into the house, if manhood doesn't really step up, and remember in that first video we talked about manhood being an adult male, and I really, really broke it down on that first video. So please go back and watch it because we're talking about being an adult male, and that means being responsible. And so I'm going to touch on a few things tonight about being a husband. First of all, a husband is an absolute jewel. And I know for a fact that there are some women out there going, "Are you insane?" No, I'm not. There are some husbands out there who, because they don't know how to fulfill their role as a husband, have created some contentious relationships. But there are other husbands out there who know how to man up, they know how to fulfill their role, and it's a beautiful thing. So, how do you get from not knowing to knowing? How do you um, how do you progress to that point if you're not there? First of all, like I said, I just want you to understand that being a husband is a jewel. It's precious. It's something to be proud of. It's needed. I mean, women need husbands, okay? Because all of us are sexual beings. Okay? There's nothing you can do to change that. There are very, very few people who don't have emotional, sexual, physical desires, uh, to be with another person, to have companionship, to share their love, their emotions, their thoughts, and belief with another person, and in an intimate way, beyond friendship, beyond work, beyond everyday living. They want someone close to them that they can be intimate with. And so, because that is the nature of man, well, we don't want to um, disregard that. We want to embrace that. And one of the ways one of the natural God-given ways to embrace that is through a bond. And so we want to talk about, so that's going to me talking about being a husband. Okay. Um, I'm not trying to beat the dead horse here, but I'm 40 years old. And my profession for uh, over 10 years now has been being a hairstylist, being a mentor, working in retail since I was 16 years old. I've always been a person who has been into sales and all that kind of stuff. So I can tell you right now, I've talked to so many women day in, day out. And the reality is, women and men, okay, 'cause I have a barber's license too. Women and men want to feel connected. Women and men want and need intimacy. They want to feel close to someone, and they want to know that they have someone in their life whom they can go through life with. Because if you're an adult, then you know there are going to be times when life is going to become difficult, and then there are going to be great times as well. And we want people desire to share that with someone. So I want to refer to a couple of scriptures. I'm not going to do all of them. But let me do my thing. And thank you for joining me. This is Sister Kathy, and this is New You. We are talking about husbands and fulfilling that role as a husband. So let's see. I'm not gonna do the ones where we talk about the wife submit yourself and all of that. Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. Okay, but we're gonna talk about the husband. Remember on the last video last week, I talked about um, how the scripture says, "Giving unto her as unto the weaker vessel," and I started talking about being sensitive and being understanding. So we want to start talking about that husband role again. It says, "Husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it." And boy, I could just only imagine that, even if I was a guy, that would, I mean, what, that's a lot. Like, wow, because if you think about it in terms of what Christ did for the church, he literally gave his life, like seriously, like hung on a cross, like nails in his hand, like, oh God, like that is huge. Can you just even phantom in your mind a husband giving that type of love to his wife? I mean, seriously, that type of commitment. And I want you to think in those terms. That type of commitment, that type of determination, that type of love where you are so determined to fulfill your role. Wow. You see how that just came back to fulfilling your role, being consistent. That's all I believe that scripture is talking about. Being consistent, fulfilling that role, no matter what comes against you. And we all know, the horrible things that happen to him, whether you believe the Bible as a great story or you believe it as the true and living word of God. Let's just follow the storyline here. Everything that he went through, even unto death, his decision when he first came, sent by the Father and all of that, his decision was to fulfill his role, to be consistent. And even after everything he went through, he held on to his purpose. So, in terms of being a husband, being an understanding person, being sensitive to your wife needs, being the head of your house, being the provider, is very important that you maintain your role, maintain your purpose. Because what you're doing as a husband is so phenomenal, it's so great. I mean, it's so intense, it's so enriching that literally, just like Christ changed the church, it changed the world. You being a husband is that serious. This is blowing my mind right now, by the way. This is like blowing my mind. Is that serious? Because you, one person, committed to family life, committed to one spouse. Do you know how life altering, how life changing that can be? And thank you to my viewers. You're watching New You. We're talking about, it's from our series Angry Men, and not angry men, but like, why are men so frustrated? Because I think they've lost their role. They've lost their 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 um their meaning, their purpose in life as men. Okay. So wow, this is blowing my mind. So here you are in a position where if you fulfill your role as a man, it's going to be life altering, life changing. And it's really easy to see because if you look around in your neighborhood, the people who tend to be doing great are those who are maintaining a family structure. I mean, I don't know if you like go to church or you go out to dinner or whatever outing, social outing you may do. It's just very warm and very pleasant to see a married couple, to see a family together. It's just something about it that makes life reassuring, you know. It brings you back to a happy medium, to a happy, it just makes you think, it takes you just to a healthy, happy place in your mind and your spirit. You feel like you have something to look forward to if you're not in that role yet, as a married couple. If you're a teenager, certainly you're going to look, at your parents' relationship if they're married, and you're going to admire that. You're going to want that one day. You're going to treasure the moments when you saw your parents, you know, actively involved with each other. And then the flip side to that is if things are negative, if things aren't being carried out successfully, meaning you're headed to divorce or breakup or you were never married or whatever, then you're going to have the opposite effect where your child is going to see it's going to see so much negative actions that it's going to impact the way they feel about marriage. And it's going to make them wonder, what is my life going to be like? What does life have to offer me? When is my life going to get better in terms of having intimacy, having that relationship, having that companion that's with you through everything that you're going to go through? Because you're going to go through things, but having that relationship, fulfilling that role, fulfilling that purpose until the very end. And it's just so important. And I know when we take our marriage vows, the one thing that we say is to death do us part. And it's kind of ironic because that's exactly what Christ did. He stayed in his role, fulfilling his commitment until death did him part. You know, I know now everybody wants to jump the boat. Everybody wants, to leap out instead of staying in. Everybody wants to run, and it's easy to do. It's just so easy to do because there are so many other people willing to try to switch out places with you. Men, let me tell you something, and please don't take this in the wrong way. I'm definitely gonna make sure it's clearly understood. When you're a married man, now if you're not married, know this, so when you do get married, you won't get it twisted. When you're a married man, your wife and you have a special connection, a special bond, and it's that way for a reason. That and that's something that you guys have to protect, okay? By maintaining your role and being consistent. That's the way you protect your marriage. Every day, act like a husband. Every day, act like a wife. Every day, know your purpose. Know your purpose. And so, when you meet another woman, and I know this is like brand new to you, like you don't know this. I'm winking an eye. I'm winking it. I'm winking it. So this is like like something you've never heard before. Okay, I'm gonna wink it again. Okay. So when you meet another woman and you all begin a conversation, if she is interested in you at all, above and beyond friendship, which I don't do the friendship thing, not because I'm some paranoid, woman or whatever, but because the word said, "How can a man take fire in his bosom and not be burned?" That's the reason why I don't believe in um, having those types of friendships where you stay connected with some female and she's like, you have private conversations on the phone and private meetings and you go out to dinner and you go out to lunch and all that stuff because in reality there's nothing you can do about making a connection with the opposite sex. You can keep it you can keep it platonic. I know you can. But what I'm saying is, in reality, because we have brains and we are sexual beings, you're gonna, a thought will cross your mind. That's keeping it real. Now, try if you're a spiritual person, please don't waste your time being that spiritual. Just know the truth. Okay, it'll keep you, it'll set you, it'll make you free. Okay. So when you meet that other woman and you're having conversation or whatever, um, and let's move on and say she has an interest in you. I hear a lot of people say, she don't want nothing from me. She just want to be cool with me. No, that'll never happen. It'll never happen because you would have to go to a whole nother series I did called Breaking the Invisible Chain, Part 1, and watch that video. But it will never happen because a woman's nature is to build a house, if you get what I'm saying. That's just a woman's spirit. It's a woman's nature. Is just to create something, to build something, to that's just who she is. So when she meets you, then and you all and she's digging you on an intimate level, then if she tells you, okay, I just want to be cool with you, no disrespect, I know you're married, blah blah blah. That's like the biggest lie ever. Because a woman nature suggests the very fact that she be tied to someone. Okay? That's just a woman's nature. Just like a man's nature is that he comes together with someone. So if you go back to video 1 from this series, I talked about how I thought it was significant that a man's pelvis is shaped like a heart, whereas a woman's pelvis is oval for childbearing, they say, or whatever. But I really looked at that and said, and I talked about it in video 1, be careful who you share your heart with. Be careful who you share your intimacy with. Be careful, be careful. Because a woman is always, I'm not saying it's a bunch of desperate women out here or whatever. I'm just speaking to you on a real level that a woman is always looking for that connection. So when you start talking to some woman and you get involved and she expresses an interest, or whether she expresses it or not, there's always in a relationship an end goal or an end result. There's nothing you can do about that. You're gonna end up friends, you're gonna end up lovers, you're gonna end up something. So, but I hear a lot of times, she just want to be cool, she don't want anything from me, she's an independent woman, this and that. That's not the truth. all women, okay? Do I have to spell that out with like a big black Sharpie marker? All women want to feel secure. All women desire love. All women desire intimacy. That's just the truth. And there's not it you know, we're on live, you stream live, and thank you for joining me. But who for everybody that's on this chat or that watches this video, please, if you're a female, keep it 100. You send me a message and tell me that you don't want security, that you don't want companionship, that you don't want intimacy. And tell me this too. Tell me that you don't want it 100%. I'm sure it's a lot of women out there who, and I know of women who date married men, date a guy who's already dating someone else, and all that good stuff. But there is not a single woman out there who desires intimacy or relationship that wants 50% of a man, that wants a weekend man, that wants a every once in a while man. You'll take it. She'll take you. She'll accept that. If she's gonna accept it, she will. But if she could have you 100%, she would, with her independent self. And that's just the truth. I've been an independent woman. I've raised 3 children by myself. There's no such thing. So you have to be careful and you have to make sure that you are fulfilling your role and maintaining your role every day, because you are ultimately the protector of your own house in your own marriage. And you're also a protector of the inheritance and the gift that you're going to give to your children at one point. So remember, it says, love them, your wife, that is. Your wife, that is. Your wife, that is. Like Christ loved the church. Understanding your purpose, understanding your role, maintaining it until death does you part. Got that? We moving on. I only got a few minutes because that was so good. Sorry. Okay. It said, so ought men to love their wives as their own bodies. He that loveth his wife loveth himself. For no man ever yet hated his own flesh, but nourished it and cherished it, even as the Lord of the church. Okay? So, oh, this is so good. So it's like, for real, think just, marriage is not that difficult. Being a husband is not that difficult. Always think about it in terms of, what would you do to yourself? Would you cheat on yourself? Would you lie on yourself? Would you want your wife giving her body to somebody else? Would you want your wife um, taking money out of the account and spending it on frivolous stuff? Whatever you wouldn't do or wouldn't want done to you, it simply says, don't do that to your wife. Marriage is so easy. We make it so complicated, but it's just so easy. Why would you do something to your wife that you wouldn't want her to do to you? That's, you know, it's that simple. Think of it on those terms. Every time you go to commit an act, every time you go to do something, think about it. I mean, you know, this is you. This is you if you're fulfilling your role. Now, if you're not fulfilling your role, you really don't care. But this is why I'm teaching this. This is why I'm doing this series. I want you to care. I want us to get back to the real structure of marriage. So it's just plain and simple. Like, you wouldn't punch yourself in the eye. So why would you punch your wife in the eye? Whatever you wouldn't do to your own body, or whatever you wouldn't want done to you, don't do it to your spouse. Right? So if you want words of affirmation, by the way, I recommend getting that book. I think it's called The 5 Love Languages. Okay? Get that book. Get the book seriously. So, okay, to talk about words of affirmation. So, if you like words of affirmation, you want somebody telling you, "Oh, baby, you the best. You look good. You smell good. You're a hard worker. Thank God for you." Whatever. You think your wife might want to hear some of that sometime? You think she might want to hear, "Oh, honey, by the way, I changed my hair." You think your wife want to? You think your wife want to hear sometimes? Hey, honey, your hair looks great. Because I always tell my husband when he shaves and everything, I'm like, oh God, you are so sexy to me. You are so fine. You know what I mean? He's my husband. You know what I mean? So, in the same regard, you should be doing things and saying things to your wife the same way you would like for her to say and do things for you. At the same time, you shouldn't be saying and doing things to your wife that you wouldn't want done to you. It's so simple. People are getting divorces. People are cheating, being unfaithful. And even if you're not like actually cheating with like another woman, there are other ways to cheat. If you prefer being with your homeboys rather than spending time with your wife, that's a big cheat. That's a huge cheat. If you prefer being with your family members rather than being with your wife, that's a big cheat. And on that note, I'm going to end the show. But not before I tell you this, because we'll get into this the following week, this week coming up. It says, for this cause shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall be joined unto his wife, and they two shall be as one flesh. We'll talk about that next week, because I just got done saying that there are a lot of ways to cheat. It's not always with another woman. You can cheat your wife out of her time with you. You can cheat her out of her family and out of the things she desires to have in her home or to build or the relationship she wants with you because you got family in your business, you all over at your brother's house all the time. You and your sister always going to the movies on Thursday night. You and your it could get messy, I'm telling you. You have to be careful and you have to make sure you're being the husband that you need to be. It's like I can hear music in the background ending the show. I want to thank you for joining me tonight. I absolutely love doing this. I will see you next week at 8 o'clock. This is New You, channel New You on Ustream Live. Sister Kathy talking about Angry Men series. I believe this is part 4. Knowing your role. Tonight we talked about husbands. I'm going to end it right here. I'm going to see you next week. We're going to pick up just where we left. Thank you for joining me. Have a great day.